Becky Vreeland was born in 1961 and lived in Oklahoma City. In the summer of 2022, she was caring for several of her grandchildren. Their parents were in custody over neglect concerns, so Becky stepped in, watching 3-year-old Riley Lynn Nolan and her siblings. But on Father's Day weekend, something went wrong. Very wrong. Becky told investigators that Riley had climbed into a backyard trash bin using a 6-foot ladder and suffered a fall. But when officers arrived, the scene didn't add up. There were red stains in Becky's bedroom and bathroom. Riley's injuries were serious. She had 3 skull fractures. Bruises were hidden under her hair. Officers saw dents in the bathroom wall. They matched the size and shape of repeated hard hits. On June 21, 2022, at about 2:22 p.m., Becky's ex-husband found Riley in a green trash can in the backyard. The child's body showed signs of having been unresponsive for days. When Becky was told, she said she had found Riley earlier, thought it was an accident, and stayed silent to avoid upsetting her son on Father's Day after his release from custody. Officers arrived and saw clear signs that Riley had suffered severe harm. Becky was taken into custody and held in Cleveland County Jail on charges related to causing Riley's passing and neglect. At first, Becky said it was an accident. She claimed she had put Riley in the trash with toys by mistake, not realizing the danger. She said she did not seek help because she feared losing her other grandchildren. But the evidence pointed another way. Detectives described bruises, skull fractures, dents in walls, and red spots. A medical examiner said 3 separate skull fractures are hard to explain as a simple fall. In October 2024, Becky entered a no-contest plea. She did not formally admit guilt, but accepted punishment for ending Riley's life. A related charge about what happened afterward was dropped. On October 15, 2024, a judge gave her a life sentence in prison. She must serve at least 85% of that time before any chance of release. That means she will not be considered for release until around age 99. Why would a grandmother hurt her granddaughter and then cover it up? Becky claimed she didn't want to ruin her son's first Father's Day out of jail. But investigators saw something deeper. Signs of prolonged mistreatment, not a single mistake. Bruises in hidden places. Skull fractures too severe for a simple fall. The no-contest plea let her avoid a full trial, but the life sentence said it all. The court treated Riley's case not as a tragic accident, but as preventable and brutal. The next case wasn't just neglect, it was hidden, controlled, and far from the first time. Carla Bousman lived in Perry, Iowa. She was the adoptive grandmother to Sabrina Ray. Sabrina was 16. She lived with Carla and her adoptive parents, Mark and Misty Ray. The family ran a daycare in their home. Over about 10 years, they cared for or adopted around 23 children, including Sabrina and her siblings. On the surface, Carla's life looked normal. That changed in May 2017 when troubling details came out about Sabrina's health. In her final days, Sabrina became very weak. She weighed only 56 pounds and was about 4 feet, 7.5 inches tall. Carla later admitted she had kept Sabrina in a room with 2 younger sisters. They did not get enough food or water. They could not leave the room for bathroom breaks. No medical help was called even as Sabrina grew worse. After Sabrina passed away, investigators found that Carla tried to hide what happened. In April 2018, Carla admitted she was responsible for 7 offenses. These included failing to care for someone who depended on her, helping hide what had happened after Sabrina's passing, getting in the way of the investigation, 2 counts of holding someone without legal permission, and 2 counts of putting children in serious danger. She faced the possibility of a much longer term if the case went to a full trial. To avoid that, she agreed to a plea deal. In court, the judge noted that a grandmother normally spoils her grandchildren. He said Carla's actions instead led to their confinement and decline. He gave the maximum term allowed, which was 20 years in custody. From the courtroom, Carla spoke and said she regretted what happened. She said she wished she could change the past and that she was very sorry. She said she missed her grandchildren. Many people wondered if that remorse came too late. Carla's own words about keeping other children in the room with Sabrina as she grew weaker added to public anger and influenced the judge's decision. Carla began serving the 20-year term. In 2025, survivors from that home, including Sabrina's siblings, reached settlements worth millions of dollars. One sibling received $4 million. Those outcomes led to changes in training and procedures for child welfare services. Now what about a grandmother who felt the need to use a weapon against her own grandson? Sandra Layne was 75 years old. She had retired as a teacher. She lived in West Bloomfield Township, a well-off area north of Detroit. She was also a devoted grandmother. In 2011, her grandson Jonathan Hoffman, then 17, came to live with her. His parents had moved to Arizona. They went there to care for his sister. She was dealing with a serious brain condition. Sandra cared for Jonathan with all her heart. His mother called her big-hearted and devoted. Yet life at home became hard. Jonathan faced troubles with the law and with certain substances. He could act out in ways that worried Sandra. Records show that in March of 2012 there was an incident at home. Jonathan damaged items in Sandra's house. Sandra felt unsafe. In April 2012, she bought a handgun. She said she felt overwhelmed. She did not know how else to keep herself safe. 2 weeks later, Jonathan failed to check. He faced possible time away from home. He also asked Sandra for money and her car keys. Tension grew. On May 18, 2012, a tragic event happened. Jonathan was wearing only gym shorts and socks. He came out of the bathroom and called 911, breathing hard. He said, "My grandma hurt me badly. I won't survive. Help me. I was hit again." 10 shots rang out in the house. Jonathan fell forward. He was severely injured and crying for help as Sandra kept firing. Police arrived soon after. Sandra dropped the gun. She immediately said she was responsible for taking Jonathan's life. Jonathan was taken to the hospital. He was declared passed on arrival. He had 6 wounds from the gunfire. Sandra faced several counts. These included ending someone's life in different degrees and an offense related to having a firearm. In March 2013, the case went to court in Oakland County. The 911 recording was played for the jury many times. It was hard to ignore Jonathan's fading voice. The team arguing against Sandra said she had chances to step back. They said she chose to find Jonathan again and fire more shots. Sandra's defense attorney spoke of fear. He said Jonathan was aggressive, unreasonable, and struggling with substances. Layne told the court that Jonathan had kicked her and threatened her. She said that when she took the gun, she meant to make him listen. She did not mean to end his life. Under cross-examination, she cried as she said, "Of course not. I still love him," when asked if she wanted to end his life. Despite this, the jury found the evidence strong. They saw no signs Sandra had been hurt first. 10 shots were fired, some after Jonathan pleaded in the 911 call. The jury ruled that she was directly responsible for ending his life and convicted her on the weapons charge. On March 19, 2013, Sandra, still 75, was found guilty. The judge gave a penalty of 20 to 40 years for causing Jonathan's passing, plus 2 more years for the firearm count. She must serve at least 22 years before she can seek early release. It was later confirmed that Sandra fired 10 times. 6 of the bullets hit Jonathan. 2 struck him in the back. His family filed a wrongful passing lawsuit. They asked for over $1 million, saying Sandra and her husband had acted recklessly and caused deep emotional harm. To Jonathan's parents, the verdict was justice. His mother called Sandra a monster. She said Sandra tormented Jonathan for several minutes before he took his final breath. And she warned that if Sandra ever got the chance again, she would hurt someone else. Up next is a grandmother, a hidden phone, and footage no one in court could forget. Patricia Batts was 51 and lived in West Yellowstone, Montana. She lived with her husband, James Sasser, Jr., and their children. She became the main caregiver for her 12-year-old grandson, James Alexander Alex Hurley, after his father passed away. She spoke as if she would protect him, but behind closed doors, things were very harsh. She was born around 1968. Her family had already faced a big loss when her son, Tommy Tate, passed away. After that, she and her husband took in Alex. They also had their own children, a 14-year-old son and a teenage daughter. From outside, it looked like a family coping with grief together. But over time, people close to them noticed worrying signs in how Alex acted and in his health. Was it just a child having a hard time, or was something more harmful happening? On February 3, 2020, Alex was found unresponsive in Batts' home. An autopsy showed he lost his life because of a severe injury to the back of his head. It also showed many marks and wounds. There were signs he had not been given enough to eat and signs of harsh treatment. Investigators found videos on family phones. In those videos, Alex was hit. He was made to do very hard exercises. He was kept from food. He was sprayed in the face with a burning liquid. He was kept in undignified conditions, such as standing in his underwear before a fan. Those videos were called very disturbing by officials in court. Batts was not only accused of letting this happen, she was accused of taking part in it. She watched as Alex suffered. She refused to get medical help when Alex clearly needed it. Later, she tried to get relatives to give false accounts to investigators. In May 2023, Batts admitted guilt to 3 charges. The first was ending Alex's life by her actions or by allowing harmful acts. The second was placing a child in a dangerous situation. The third was interfering with witnesses. In return for her plea, prosecutors agreed not to seek the most serious penalty. On August 22, 2023, in Gallatin County District Court, Judge John C. Brown said the harsh treatment was not needed and came from ill intent. He gave Batts a life sentence in prison for Alex's case. He also gave concurrent 10-year terms for putting a child in danger and interfering with witnesses. At the hearing, family members spoke of deep betrayal. Alex's aunt asked, "How could you sit back and watch your own grandson suffer?" Batts, visibly upset, said, "I regret not being the grandmother Alex should have had." She appeared to show some regret. When Alex was found at age 12, he was very thin and weak from the lack of proper food and from the harsh treatment he faced. Batts had once promised to protect him. Instead, the home became a place where he faced repeated harm. That environment ended his young life. The next parents trusted her to care for a fragile baby. What they didn't know cost him his life. Tonya Monroe was born in 1972. She lived in Georgia. Her family saw her as a mother and grandmother. They trusted her to care for her young grandson. By 2016, she had one child who had a son named Kobe Conley Shaw. He was 9 months old and had a rare genetic condition. That condition needed careful care and medical checkups. Even so, the family shared care duties and trusted Monroe with these tasks. Little is known about Monroe's life before March 2016. On March 11, 2016, 9-month-old Kobe was found unresponsive in a Sandy Springs apartment while Monroe was watching him. Because Kobe had a genetic condition, investigators and doctors first thought he might have passed away from natural causes. Monroe told officials he had stopped breathing during sleep. That matched the early checks. Whether she acted on purpose or panicked was a key question. At first, officials found her explanation possible. Later that spring, the medical examiner's report said Kobe had passed away from high levels of an illicit substance. This finding pointed to deliberate harm. Soon after, Monroe went missing. By June, police had warrants and federal agents joined the search. Monroe changed her hair color and moved around Georgia and into Alabama. About 6 weeks after Kobe lost his life, she was found in Paulding County. She faced legal charges for intentional harm leading to passing, 2 related counts because the passing happened during other serious wrongdoing, severe harm to a child charge, and providing illegal substances to an infant. The case lasted over 6 years and included 2 trials. The first trial in 2018 ended without agreement. 11 jurors thought Monroe knowingly gave Kobe the harmful substance. 1 did not. That split led to a mistrial. This showed how hard it was to decide if it was on purpose or a tragic mistake. At the second trial, experts spoke about Kobe's test results. They said the substance levels were too high to be accidental or from the environment. Investigators showed Monroe gave an untrue account about breathing stopping and misled officials. Her leaving after learning the test results was also used to show she understood what had happened. In November 2022, the jury found her responsible on all counts. Officials said the family had suffered for a long time and hoped the outcome brought some relief. They noted strong cooperation between local police, federal agents, and the prosecution. They said this was about seeking fairness for a helpless child. On December 6, 2022, the judge sentenced Monroe to life in prison without chance of release. Officials and family felt this matched the harm done and the trust that was broken. The verdict confirmed she was responsible for intentional harm leading to passing, 2 related harm counts, severe child harm, and providing a harmful substance. Next is grandmother with a clean record, until the day she brought a loaded gun. For more real cases like this, where the truth isn't what it first seems, consider subscribing. Suzette Olin was 68 years old. She lived in Queens, New York. She lived quietly in Far Rockaway. She had a daughter and a newborn grandchild. Nothing in her past drew attention. Then she appeared in national news for firing a gun in an incident that led to someone's loss of life. Suzette had no prior contact with law enforcement. Nothing suggested this could happen. In summer 2020, her daughter began having serious issues with her partner, Shaka Ifil. On July 26, 2020, around 2 p.m., Shaka Ifil was wounded by a gun in his Queens apartment. He was 40 years old. When police arrived, he was still conscious. He managed to speak before he left for the hospital. He said, "It was my girlfriend's mother who shot me." He later passed away at Jamaica Hospital. The gunshot hit vital organs. He did not survive. What led Suzette, a grandmother, to go into that apartment and fire a gun? Was she trying to protect her daughter and grandchild? Or was there another reason? 3 days earlier, Ifil had reportedly forced entry into the apartment where her daughter and the newborn lived. The daughter filed a report, saying he acted aggressively. When police arrived then, they saw no visible injuries on her. This raised questions. Was Suzette defending her family? Or did she plan to resolve the issue with a gun? Surveillance footage gave some details. Cameras showed an older woman, later confirmed as Suzette, arriving at the Woodhaven apartment in an Access A-Ride vehicle around 1:50 p.m. on the day in question. She was seen smoking a cigarette before entering the building. Less than 10 minutes later, Shaka Ifil was wounded by a gun. When police arrested Suzette, they found the weapon used. It was registered to her. It sat inside a gray bag in her home. She did not deny being there that day. Her account became central at trial. At the trial in Queens Supreme Court, prosecutors said she went there with one goal: to cause harm. They argued it was not an act of protection. They said she brought a loaded gun and knew her intention. The defense said she feared for her daughter's life. They said she wanted to confront him and things went wrong. The jury did not accept this view. In May 2023, they found her guilty of first-degree manslaughter and second-degree unlawful possession of a weapon. At sentencing, the judge showed no mercy. She was given 23 years in custody. She will also face 5 years under supervision after release. She will be nearly 90 before she can leave custody. The next case started with a lie about candy. It ended with a little girl collapsing in the dirt. Joyce Garrard lived in a rural part of Etowah County in northeast Alabama. She was born in 1965. Her childhood home was troubled. Her defense later said she faced harsh discipline from her grandmother. As an adult, Joyce married Johnny Garrard. She became a grandmother to Savannah Hardin, a bright 9-year-old. Savannah lived with Joyce and her stepmother, Jessica Hardin, in a simple trailer home. Family and friends saw Joyce as a devoted caregiver. She tried to keep Savannah focused and guided. One cold day in February 2012, Savannah admitted she had eaten chocolate candy. She had a bladder condition that limited sweets. Joyce was upset by the lie. She told Savannah to run laps around their trailer as a form of correction. Evidence later showed Savannah ran for nearly 3 hours while carrying firewood. Camera footage captured Joyce saying, "She's going to run till I tell her to stop." Savannah began to vomit and collapse. She had episodes that looked like seizures. She said she felt exhausted. Joyce is said to have refused to let her stop. Savannah's pleas did not end the running. 4 days later, Savannah was taken off life support and passed away in a hospital. Medical examiners pointed to dehydration and very low sodium levels as the causes. In March 2015, Joyce faced a legal hearing in Etowah County Circuit Court. She faced the most serious charge related to Savannah's passing. Prosecutors described her as a very strict disciplinarian. They said she pushed Savannah until Savannah could no longer survive. They played the audio from the bus camera and shared that Joyce insisted Savannah keep running. The defense said it was a tragic accident, not planned harm. Joyce testified that Savannah treated the running as practice for school races. She said, "If she was running, I was running." She said she loved Savannah and never meant to harm her. The jury found Joyce guilty of the most serious charge. During the penalty decision, jurors voted 7-5 for a sentence, keeping her in prison for life without release. They chose not to recommend the most severe option. The judge accepted their suggestion. On May 11, 2015, he formally gave her a sentence of life without release. This meant she would remain in custody with no chance of release. When the judge asked for final remarks, Joyce said the only thing she would change is having her granddaughter still with her. She said she would accept whatever result came. Those were her last words in court. They showed her sadness and acceptance. In February 2016, Joyce collapsed at Julia Tutwiler Prison for Women after a family visit. She was flown to a hospital. She passed away 5 days later at age 50. The Department of Corrections said it appeared to be a heart event. No suspicion of wrongdoing arose. On the outside, the next grandmother quoted scripture. On the inside, something else was brewing. Blanche Taylor Moore was born Blanche Kaiser on February 17, 1933, in Concord, North Carolina. She was one of 7 children. Her father was Parker Davis Kaiser. He worked as a Baptist minister and in a mill. Her mother was Flonnie Honeycutt. According to Blanche's later claims, her father drank heavily, was unfaithful, and forced her into unwanted work to cover his debts. These experiences shaped her early life. On the outside, she seemed devout, yet she mixed scripture with unsettling remarks. This hinted at inner conflict. By May 29, 1952, Blanche married James Napoleon Taylor. He restored furniture and had served in Korea. They had 2 children, one born in 1953 and one in 1959. Blanche began working at Kroger in 1954. By 1959, she was head cashier. On October 2, 1973, James Taylor passed away unexpectedly. At the time, it was said to be a heart event. Decades later, tests showed very high arsenic in his body. In the mid-1970s, Blanche began a relationship with Raymond Reed, her store manager. In May 1986, he fell ill with nausea and nerve issues. He was admitted to hospital. Doctors first thought it was an autoimmune condition. Blanche stayed by his side and brought him foods like banana pudding. He passed away on October 7, 1986. At first, it was blamed on natural causes. Later examination found high arsenic in his remains. In April 1989, Blanche married Reverend Dwight Moore. A few days after their honeymoon, Dwight fell seriously ill after eating a chicken sandwich. He was hospitalized. Tests on May 13th showed extremely high arsenic levels, among the highest ever recorded in someone still alive. He survived, but had lasting nerve damage. Investigators looked deeper. They exhumed James Taylor, Raymond Reed, and Blanche's father, Parker Kaiser. All showed elevated arsenic. James and Raymond had levels high enough to end their lives. Parker had a non-lethal level. A former in-law also showed high levels, raising questions. On July 18, 1989, after Dwight's illness, authorities arrested Blanche. She faced charges related to the earlier losses and the attempt on Dwight. She pleaded not guilty. Her trial for Raymond Reed's case began on October 21, 1990, in Winston-Salem. The state called many witnesses. They placed her at Reed's side in the hospital and saw her offering him pudding. Photos in court showed changes in Reed's hands and feet typical of arsenic exposure. Prosecutors noted she had pushed for exhumations and tried to change Dwight's pension so she would benefit most. Blanche's defense said the illnesses were natural. They argued she had no reason to harm anyone. On November 14, 1990, the jury found Blanche Taylor Moore guilty in the case of Reed's passing. 3 days later, they recommended the harshest penalty. On January 18, 1991, the judge imposed that penalty by injection. Other charges were dropped after that. Blanche remains confined under that sentence at the North Carolina facility for women who face the highest penalties. In 2010, she joined others seeking a lesser outcome under a state law about fairness in jury selection. She continues to assert her innocence. She spends time writing poetry and music. She has also received treatment in prison for cancer. Next is a woman whose family history and hidden body made her actions even worse. Brookie Lee West was born on June 28, 1953. She grew up in a home with many problems. Her father, Leroy Smith, taught her occult practices and encouraged harmful behavior from a young age. Her mother, Christine Smith, struggled with heavy drinking and was often not reliable. Brookie had a younger brother, Travis, born in 1956. What happened to him is unclear. Some say he did not survive. Others think he might still be alive. Both parents had a strong impact on Brookie. Her mother's struggles meant she often let her children down. Her father introduced dark ideas. He even left Brookie at an orphanage for several years. As an adult, Brookie faced worrying events. In May 1993, Travis went missing. Later, someone used his social security number at Santa Clara Valley Medical Center. This happened at a location where Brookie lived. In 1994, she married Howard Simon St. John. In May of that year, Brookie harmed him with a gun. 2 weeks later, Howard was found unresponsive with a gunshot wound in a bag over his head in California. Brookie was not formally charged over his passing. In 1996, Brookie is said to have used a stun device on her new stepmother, Diane Smith, while her father was dying. In February 1998, Christine Smith vanished from her Las Vegas apartment. Brookie said her mother had moved to live with Travis in California. Neighbors found this odd. Christine left behind her ring, wool cap, and other personal items. Brookie was arrested on September 5, 2001. Her hearing began in July 2001. Key evidence came from a sealed trash container. A sealed bag was found over her mother's face. This pointed to asphyxiation. Witnesses said Brookie claimed no one had seen Travis in years. That did not fit with her explanation. Recordings in court captured Brookie admitting she placed her mother's body in the container. Prosecutors noted she needed money as a possible reason. On July 19, 2001, the jury found Brookie responsible for unlawful taking of life in the first degree. The way the body was hidden in a sealed barrel and the covering of the face led to this finding. She was given a sentence with no chance of release. The court described the situation as very unusual. Brookie appealed in 2004. She argued Travis might be alive and could confirm her story. The state's highest court upheld the original finding. While in custody at a women's correctional facility, she joined a study group. She led art sessions for others. In 2012, she tried to leave the facility by disguising herself with altered clothes. She reached the front gate before being stopped. The next grandmother had 5 kids in her care. One ambulance call changed everything. Patricia Ricks was a grandmother and the legal guardian for 5 grandchildren. In mid-2022, she moved from South Carolina to Nash County, North Carolina. She was in her early 70s. She had taken guardianship after the children's parents could not care for them. Her son, Frederick Layne, and other family members said she was a loving grandmother. They believed she provided a stable home. Records from healthcare and social services show she managed the children's medical needs. She took them to church. Still, problems began to appear. Physical signs of harm showed up. By December 2022, Nash County's Department of Social Services received several reports about possible harm to a child. Those reports were not fully resolved before the worst happened. On February 7th, 2023, just after 4 p.m., an ambulance brought 8-year-old Crystal Layne to Nash UNC Healthcare in Rocky Mount. Her body had severe injuries. She was unresponsive. She did not recover on the way. Investigators found evidence of serious blunt force injuries to Crystal's head and body. They also found a plunger and a taser among items used to hurt her inside the master bedroom and the bathroom of Ricks's home. Officers described the scene as very disturbing. There was a lot of red, and the child felt cold to the touch. Detectives noted signs of repeated harm across Crystal's body and head. They saw many bruises, broken bones, and injuries to her abdomen. These suggested long-term mistreatment. Weeks earlier, teachers at Cooper's Elementary in Nashville remembered Crystal arriving so badly injured that she was hard to recognize. She had said the punishment was for refusing to wear lotion. No clear reason was ever given for the harm. Authorities said they did not learn of any motive. Ricks later told the court she thought it was an accident. Her attorney mentioned medication issues might have affected her judgment that day. Nash County DSS had opened an investigation in December 2022 after complaints, but they did not follow up regularly. They did not get records from other states. They did not escalate the concerns as required. The North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services later pointed out these failures. It required changes in child protection procedures. The lapses caused public outrage. People asked if Crystal might have been saved if there had been faster action. Ricks was arrested soon after Crystal's passing in February 2023. She was charged with the most serious count for causing fatal harm and a serious count related to harm to a child. Nearly 2 years later, on January 31, 2025, at age 74, she entered what is known as an Alford plea. She acknowledged that prosecutors had enough evidence for the most serious count. She still maintained she was not responsible. In court, she arrived in a wheelchair due to age and health issues. She had trouble confirming she understood the plea. She looked away and cried at times. Her attorney said she had serious health problems and mental strain. The judge repeated questions until she nodded. At one point, Ricks became emotional and said, "It was an accident when it happened. I love all of my grandkids. I took those kids. Their mama and daddy didn't want them." She insisted she did not mean for this to happen. During the hearing, District Attorney Jeff Marsigli said there is nothing that can heal the wound of this tragedy for Crystal's family. He said he hoped the plea would bring some closure for those involved. Ricks received a mandatory life term without the possibility of release. She will stay in a facility that can meet her medical and mental health needs. The harshest outcome had been considered, but prosecutors agreed to this plea to avoid a long trial given her frail health. Her surviving grandchildren were removed by social services and placed into state care. Pamela Shelton lived in Wetumpka, Alabama. She became the second wife of Rosalie Rawls's grandfather. She was step-grandmother to 2-year-old Rosalie. Little is known about her early life, education, or work. Reports focused on her role in the family and her connection to the child. Rosalie's mother, Kunesha Rawls, said Pamela was her father's second wife. Rosalie's older sister, Marchetta, was at home on the day of the incident. On July 20th, 2017, Kunesha left her 2-year-old daughter Rosalie at her father's house in Wetumpka for a few days. The next afternoon, Marchetta called and said Rosalie was having a seizure. They rushed Rosalie to a hospital in Birmingham. Doctors later said she would not recover. She passed away after suffering very serious head injuries and harmful trauma to her head, experts said. Pamela Shelton faced trial 2 times. The first trial ended without a verdict in 2019 because of a procedural issue. The second trial was delayed when Marchetta, a key witness, did not appear. On August 3, 2022, after long delays, a jury found Pamela responsible on 2 counts, taking Rosalie's life and causing severe harm to a child. The decision noted that Rosalie's injuries must have resulted from strong, purposeful actions. In November 2022, a judge gave Pamela Shelton a life sentence for each finding. The prosecutor said she showed no regret and did not accept responsibility. Rosalie's mother said that nothing can bring her daughter back. Still, the decision offered some sense of closure for her. Up next are 2 children gone, 13 more injured. The driver, someone they all knew, Marshella Chidester, was well known in her Monroe County, Michigan community. She led the Swan Boat Club. Her father had started that club. It was also where her wedding reception took place. She lived a short walk from the building. Neighbors and local media called her a grandmother. Before the incident, people spoke of her in positive terms. Her lawyer later said she had leg seizures. That detail became part of her defense. On April 20th, 2024, a child's birthday party was underway at the private Swan Boat Club in Berlin Township. At some point, Chidester got into her SUV. Security footage showed the vehicle moving very fast down a gravel road. The speed was about 44 miles per hour. Then the vehicle struck the building where families were gathered. Inside, both 8-year-old Alana Phillips and 4-year-old Zane Phillips lost their lives right away. 13 others, including their mother, survived but with serious harm. An eyewitness said the scene felt sudden and terrifying. Debris was everywhere. First responders described total disorder and said the scene felt overwhelming. Tests later showed Chidester's level of impairment was more than twice the legal limit. The prosecution said driving under the influence led to the tragedy. They shared a video of her drinking wine at home earlier that day. They noted she stopped at Verna's Tavern that afternoon and had more wine. After she hit a neighbor's car, she kept going toward the club. Her defense raised questions about the test results. They suggested the sample might have been handled incorrectly. They argued that a leg seizure from the month before could have affected her control of the brake. They said a seizure might have made her foot press the gas by mistake. The jury had to decide if she meant harm by continuing to drive after hitting the neighbor's car. The prosecution said yes. They pointed out that once she saw she had hit another vehicle and was impaired, she still chose to keep driving. The trial started on March 3, 2025. It lasted 4 days. More than 24 people spoke in court. They included law officers, those who were hurt, medical staff, bar employees, and experts in evidence. On day 2, the mother of the 2 children described waking up in the hospital. She learned her children were gone and that she had severe injuries. Deputies described her failed field checks, her red, watery eyes, and the smell of drinks. A forensic expert said the test was handled correctly and could be used in court. Jurors saw video of her drinking and the SUV moving at high speed. On March 6th, the jury took under 2 hours to find her responsible on all 9 charges. That included 2 charges for causing loss of life under second-degree provisions, 2 charges of driving under the influence that led to loss of life, and 5 charges of driving under the influence that led to serious harm. Right after the verdict, the father of the children said, "The jury got it right." At sentencing, Judge Daniel White called it the most tragic case the court had seen. Chidester received long terms, 25 to 50 years for the loss of life convictions, 7 to 15 years for the driving-related loss of life, and 2 to 3 years for the driving-related serious harm. These terms run at the same time. She could seek parole after 25 years when she would be about 92. Before the judge gave the sentence, Chidester spoke. She said she was very sorry for the loss of the children. She said she prayed for them every day and never meant to cause harm. Her lawyer said they would ask for a new review. They raised the same concerns about the sample and about how fair the trial was in a close community. The next grandmother said the toddler just wouldn't wake up, but doctors saw something else. Selena Rivera was 45. She lived in DeKalb County, Georgia. She cared for her 3-year-old granddaughter, Neve Pinckney. Public details about her family are limited. In September 2012, Neve was found badly hurt at home. Rivera, who looked after the child, called 911. She said the child did not respond. When help arrived, the child had already passed away. The medical report showed serious damage to the head, body, and limbs. The report said these injuries did not come from an accident. Authorities found Rivera's 911 call puzzling. She described the child's state but gave no clear reason for the serious harm. During interviews, she did not explain what happened. This led investigators to think the harm was on purpose. About a year later, in September 2013, a grand jury brought formal accusations. These included causing harm that led to loss of life and causing serious injuries in 2 instances. Her trial ran from late August to September 10, 2015. The people bringing the case used the medical report and images. They showed how severe the injuries were. They said this went beyond carelessness. They noted that Rivera never said she caused it. She also chose not to attend the sentencing hearing. Her defense offered other explanations. They said she did not mean to cause harm, but the jury saw strong proof of intent. On September 10, 2015, the jury found she was responsible on all counts, causing harm that led to loss of life and causing serious injuries twice. On September 16, 2015, a judge set her sentence. She must serve life in prison but can ask for review after 30 years. Later, one of the counts was dropped because state law combined it with another count. After sentencing, Rivera still did not attend court sessions. Reports say she avoided going to hearings. She may not have wanted to face what happened. Rivera is still in prison serving her sentence. She asked a higher court to look at her case. She argued the proof was weak. In October 2018, the Georgia Supreme Court kept the verdict and sentence as they were.